I guess I'll describe a little bit about like how we're set up in the studio because it might just help people picture it.
Yeah.
That was like a little abstract. I could I could imagine if you haven't been to the studio. So there's three sculptors, Sabin, myself, and another guy, and we all are working with an individual model separately. And the way that we do that is the relief, we're working at this final 60-foot long scale. The figures on that relief have been broken up by the foundry in a 3D printing process so they can all separate individually. So what we don't really work on them on the wall actually. We take them off, and so I'm given the task of the day to work on this crouching guy, for example, and Sabin is working on the heroic dad, let's say, and then someone else working on something else. And so we've each got like our own little mini setup where we have a model posing and we have our foam armature and our clay and our tools, and then we're working essentially one-on-one with the model the whole day. And then Sabin, it's kind of come down to him guiding us. Like, I mean, it's very similar to getting a critique from a teacher at school, where he'll come over, you know, once a day, or let's say even twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and just sort of give some guidance or whatever. We just talk about what's the goal today. That's a major thing. It's just set your intention, make a goal, and like get there, and then we can analyze later, you know. But you just
Yeah.
make these little incremental projects for yourself, and and slowly it starts to come together. So we have like 3.5 years to finish 38 figures.
That's pretty amazing. And then this is, at least like in my experience in, well, I feel like this is really amazing. One, that you have live models, because I feel like that's really rare in this kind of production
Yeah,
to get to work from life. And then
definitely.
I'm wondering too, like I felt this when I was working at Studio Ice, where they talked about having sort of a unified hand, and so that hand was supposed to be Che's because he's the head sculptor. So do you feel like, do you feel like you're trying to sculpt like Sabin, or
Yeah.
that how do you keep the hand sort of consistent sculpture to
Um,
sculpture?
mm, there's certain like application principles, but the problem with thinking like, oh, I have to just make it look like what he does is it's like you're just copying a style, you know?
Hmm.
And actually what's unique about how Saban sculpts is a system of thinking. And
Hmm.
so it's really like it really truly is incorporating a, a new a new system of thinking. I hesitate saying new because I've been introduced to the ideas, you know, just through studying with
Hmm.
Che, but it is like a certain maybe order or process uh, that's a little different, and an emphasis uh, at a certain point. But what I really like about Sabin and the way that we're approaching it is that it's all about pushing the depth and the volume of the form.
Hmm.
And that's the majority of the critiques, I would say, that we have in the studios. Like, just keep pushing the keep pushing, keep pushing. You know, we're doing so much drapery. It's all about like how can you get the drapery to really like wrap out and then spin back around and activate the figure a lot. And we are about 10 months into the project,
Hmm.
and we have 2 months before we finish the first section. so they're casting this thing in sections. So we have a deadline coming August 15th to finish the first 11 figures. And once they're finished, they're going to go off to the foundry. Then we're starting the next ones. And with the coming deadline, I think in a lot of other places, it would be this finishing time where you got to like smooth it out and make sure the buttons look really good. And there's an element of the button thing, but it's the emphasis is not smooth it out. It's how can we push the design? How can we make the design better? Like, I'll be honest, I set up a figure for Sabin, so worked on a figure for a long time, and then he was going to do like a final pass on it. And he had done some parts of it, and we had collaborated on a certain part. And then when I gave it to him, it's a dab like this in the arm. He just tore up the arm and resculpted it, and like changed the whole design.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like my design was terrible or like the actual form was bad, but he saw something in that moment that was going to make the whole design of that figure better. Like it was going to work with the context of the relief as a whole, and the story even. And he wasn't afraid to do that, and he like took the time to do that, you know. And so it's cool, like to see and be around someone that's like willing to do that and knows like, let's make these big decisions and make them well, you know. And it doesn't have to be super smooth and polished, basically.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel like, you know, finished is finished, but like what you're talking about is like the actual like meat of the sculpture. And that's pretty amazing. He has it just sounds like a lot of integrity to his work.
He has a lot of integrity. He's definitely you know, a leader in that way. Like, he's been around the block, he's been here for a long time, and he hasn't compromised. And at this stage, he's not going to compromise, you know. And it's I'm like, I guess just thankful to him for that, but also just like excited to be in a place where, you know, like real sculptural decisions are still being made. It's not like dominated by, I don't know, finicky details.
Yeah, I mean, that's really like a dream project. I mean,
yeah, it is. It's like a perfect timing for me. And I don't know, it's super exciting. I love going there every day. The you know, being with a good crew, being with good models. The models are super cool. They're a group of actors that he's been working with since the beginning of the design of the project. And so it's like definitely a sense of community within the group. There's like 8 people there every day. His wife Tracy is a novelist, but also at this point, like kind of the ultimate boss in the studio. And his daughter, Sabin's daughter's been around a lot because of the virus, and so she's been doing school from the studio. And it's a nice community. It's a nice group of people to be around, and we're sculpting every day, so can't complain.
Yeah. I was wondering too, because the way you're working is different than what I've done before. So when I've done drapery, usually, at least when I was working in production, people would photograph the model. So we'd have a photo reference and then measurements. And then we would set up drapery on mannequins or dress forms. And so I was curious how you, as the model moves, I'm sure because of the tailoring and, you know, like joint tension, like there's some repetition in the drapes that occur on the clothing, but how do you keep the logic sound in the drapes?
That's a great question, and like a question that only an experienced sculptor would really be able to ask. It's like there's different ways of doing it, but I was thinking some days, I'll get frustrated and say, I wish I had a mannequin to just spin this. But I mean, it makes such a difference for a lot of the action poses, like even the boots, like to get a
Yeah.
boot like compressing into the ground like that, or then they're wearing, I mean, it goes across the board. I could talk about every specific part and how the drapery like basically influences the expression of that part.
Hmm.
Totally the main focus of our job day to day is like, how do you show what's happening with the body in this pose and then design the drapery over top of it?
Yeah.
The coolest thing about like the situation with Saban is that he's giving us a certain amount of freedom to this to come up with those designs our own, and then essentially you have to pass them by him. But
Yeah.
there is like the initial moment is yours, to go and say like this is what I see, or this is how I'm going to arrange it.
Yeah.
So different. We've had like so many different moments already, and we've dealt with them differently. A common thing is to take a clip, like one of those big paper clips, the big black ones,
Hmm.
and flip them around here, and like clip somewhere. Like let's say I don't have a baggy shirt, but like clip here, and then it kind of pulls the tension to a certain point, and
Yeah.
that way it's a lot more stable when the model changes. But
Hmm.
there's certain places that are really hard to clip, or you can't clip at all. Like
Hmm.
today, I was working on the section. The soldiers are wearing an ammo belt,
Hmm.
and their coat comes out below the ammo belt, and so it's like a high-waisted belt with the coat coming out, and then underneath it, like above their hip, on top of their hip, and then they're moving forward,
Yeah.
and so it's like this potential for this explosion of fabric, and when you look at like some Renaissance and Baroque stuff,
It
you
is an
know,
explosion of fabric.
yeah,
Yeah.
the potential's there. And then when the model just does it and they're not running forward into war and they're just there on the little platform, like it
Mhm.
kind of just falls down.
Yeah.
So one of the most unique experiences today, I dealt with it and I had like a system that I could kind of like pinch every time the model went in and out of the pose, and it would go back pretty close to the same thing.
Hmm.
But another moment, when one of the most unique experiences I've had so far was Saban came over and looked at something that I did early on that same section, but a different figure, and uh, he asked me to grab it, and then like I held it in place for a second,
Hmm.
and then we actually designed it by holding it in place. And probably that moment where, in your experience, you would take a photo,
Hmm.
then I held it for a while and he was sculpting. And then as he moved through the design, like from, let's just say from left to right, like
Yeah.
I could actually sort of pinch something and pull it out a little more, or tuck it back under. And so we kind of created something that never really existed in one moment,
Hmm.
but we we like, I was almost physically sculpting the fabric and he was sculpting the clay at the same time, and we were like, it was super dynamic. It was like I was looking at him and he was looking at the thing, and he would say
Yeah.
do this, I would do that, and then I would hold it, and then like it was super dynamic. And then we ended up with this crazy like swirling pattern in the uh, father figure. It's like this. It's the second figure. It's the daughter, and the father is about to go off to war, and his daughter is handing him the helmet. So it's the beginning of this huge scene, which turns into a battle, and then death and a return from war. And so the crazy thing is, in Saban's mind, after he said the swirl kind of goes with uh, the sort of chaotic feelings and mix of emotions that that guy would be feeling at that moment. Um, yeah, it was an exciting moment, and Saban's definitely got the like a really good design sense, you know, and he's been doing it for a long time. We have a bunch of his figures in the studio from the rest of his career before this, and it's fun to look at those too.